Today is a 6th line day, and this is our second sun gate today. According to British summertime, the sun transited into line 5 at 10 past midnight this morning, and it transits into this line 6 at 15 minutes to midnight tonight. So within our 24-hour period, we have 2 sun gates. So we are looking at gate 15, of course, the gate of extremes, and this is line 6 called self-defense. We know that the 6th line in our time carries a unique quality. Not only do they represent the finishing process of being able to look upon the hexagram and be clear about whether that hexagram can truly fulfill itself, but they also represent an openness to the mutative sequence that is taking place as a sort of ongoing evolutionary process. Something in us opens up through 6 lines to the completion of our process, to the completion of our evolution. There's a lifetime learning here, modesty that is never confused with weakness. Again, this is about being yourself, because to be yourself is your greatest defense. The moment that you put out that you're more than you are, well, you may have to confront forces there who think that you can handle whatever it is you're putting out. And then, of course, you're going to be in real trouble. In the exaltation, we have constant re-examination to weed out the weakest aspect. The power of the self in exploring the extremes to find the weakest point. Ra said this is a classic 6th line. They're very good at that, and it's about caring for human beings too. One of the most important transitions, and it's still ongoing really, it's about how much time the majority of society actually have to work, and how society has become more and more complex. And it's about finding what rhythms work for humanity and what rhythms don't work for humanity. So this love of humanity, remember this is another aspect of gate 15, the love of humanity. It's about pulling everybody into the flow. In the detriment, we have the tendency to use harmony as a weapon in problem situations rather than in focusing on root causes. The power of the self to ignore the weakest point in favor of harmony. So the 15-6 can always tell who cannot stay in the flow. The exalted can see who cannot stay in the flow and they throw them out. Because they cannot keep up. They're a drain on resources. They're going to slow everybody down, cause problems. The other side of that, the detriment, is more sympathetic. There's a more harmonious approach where no one gets left behind. Everyone helps to carry the extra weight if that's what's required. And there's no moral judgment here between the two. Both are okay. If you're living out your own nature, then it doesn't matter which one you're expressing, because you will be correct. This journey, this solar year, the sun's transits, this is a journey through the human genetic code. It's everything that's there has to be there. And everything being there, everything being correct, well, the more you live out yourself, the more you come to understand that what you're given is what you have to express naturally. And then that's a true modesty. It's why all of these lines in the 15 were considered to be exalted, because to be oneself is to make the greatest of all contributions. The self-defense of modesty, the ability to be able to recognize what rhythms are of value to the collective, leads us to the next step, which is to do nothing at all. Which is gate 52. It's the gate of inaction. It's keeping still mountain. Now, other than when a 6th line is young, they rarely participate in the nature of the hexagram. We have seen the 6 lines. They sit up there on the roof of the house, they look out over everything, and they wonder, why should I bother? What's in it for me? When the 15-6 has finished its business, and the next step then is to become the 52-1 in the keeping still mountain. And that's all about being focused and concentrated. It's a very passive energy. And the first line there is called think before you speak. The foundation of what it is to be still is to wait until one has the possibility of clarity. Now think about children who have the 15, line 6. They know they're extreme and they don't see anything wrong with that. It's their superpower. And yet, of course, they will have to deal very quickly with the way in which society deals with extremes when those extremes are not played out at what is considered to be the right time. So those children pull it back. They have self-defense. And then they will go and sit up on the roof eventually, and they will not let anybody witness their extremes. They will think before they speak. They will wait. They will be still. Like all 6 lines, there will always be that moment in their lifetime, young or old, in which the 6th line transcends its apathy and becomes involved. After all, that is the wave in which the 6th line, they operate through apathy to sympathy. This is how they are designed to operate. A 6th line who has been very burned in its life very often will stay in that apathetic end of the wave, and they won't want to come off the roof. But when they are called off the roof, they can be so wise. The apathy can also just go away when that wisdom is able to shine through, when that potential in the 6th line is of value and it feels itself to be of value, then that extreme can be pulled out, because that extreme then will actually lead to a pattern that is viable for all of humanity. Gate 15 is the love that guides us so that the patterns that we have in our future, as much as possible, can be trusted. It's the nature of love in the world. And it's got nothing to do with hugging and kissing, although all of that is rather nice, but it's about making sure really that people are educated from the earliest possible age. Without that education, human beings have no possibility to see that what they are is not an embarrassment, that they are not in any way broken. They don't need refinement or improvement. What they are is perfect, because it is exactly what it is supposed to be. It's an aspect of the totality, an aspect of the spectrum of things. We are all perfect. None of us are broken. We have a kind of false prophecy about the nature of love. We've all been very well conditioned, or maybe not all of us, but most of us very well conditioned by the whole Hollywood version of what love is. And we assume that we generate love in the world by loving each other, or loving other people. And this is kind of funny in a way, because that has nothing to do with what love is all about. It's nothing to do with loving anybody or anybody outside of yourself anyway, or anything. It has to do with being one with the creative process, accepting, surrendering to what it is to be you, and seeing in that surrender your own beauty. And it's only when you find that surrender in your own beauty that you begin to put love into your aura and then out into the world. And there's not really any other way. No matter how sweet and nice you are and how much love you give out to other people and how loving you want to be perceived as being in the world, that doesn't change your aura, and it doesn't change anything at all, really. What changes the aura of the whole planet is us living as ourselves. And this is the crux of what the work is with human design. It's to really show people the truth of who they are, the wonder of who they are, to help them fall in love with themselves, so that we can then all just live out our nature without the morality, without the conditioning, to see clearly what it is just to be ourselves. And that creates love in the world. The 10, Gate 10 in the line 6 is called the role model. And this is the perfect expression of the norms through action rather than words. And it's the perfect grounding, isn't it, for the line of self-defense in the 15-6. Why? Why is it? Simply because it is, really. You know, the role model is behaving correctly, which means that they are behaving as themselves. Well, what better support could there be for any line than that? So the moon has just gone into gate 60 at 22:01, a gate of limitation, the gate of acceptance, where we are told that the acceptance of limitation is the first step in transcendence. This is the gate that carries the pressure for mutation, a mutation that transcends old forms, old values, and outdated order. And it works on an on-off pulse. It's a root center gate that really wants to bring a kind of creative change into the world and needs to accept that this happens in its own timing. It's a mutative process that is beyond anybody's control. And gate 41 is our last gate at 7:39. This is the gate of decrease, the gate of contraction. And we've come from limitation and we move into 41. And this talks about the limitation of resources which maximizes development of potential. It's root center gate with a drive to fantasize about having a new experience, not playing out that fantasy necessarily, maybe if there was the whole channel, but certainly having the fantasy, the daydream, having a rich imagination. So that is us today. We move into a new gate tomorrow. Thank you very much for being with me and watching this or listening to this and sharing in the experience of the transits. I will see you tomorrow. Take care. Go gently.